Listen, right now you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. So good to see you all. Welcome on YouTube, Rumble, and X simultaneously. And welcome everybody in the live chat. I see Krista LaBella. I see Sitting Kitty, Chris Nixon. Good to see you. Mike Olson, Sharon Greenwood, Tammy. Good to see you. Thank you for your messages. I see Roma, Girl Sees Dragons. Good to see you, my friend. Waking Up Humanity, Andrea, A&P. Stuart is here, brother. Good to see you. Susie, wonderful. Anna is here from Sweden. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for blasting our shows all over Facebook. Thank you for your support and your help, my friend. Much love to you. Black Skies here, original Tribesters in the live chat. All righty. Thank you all for being here. Let's talk about toxic positivity today. It is something that is very close to our hearts. And as a matter of fact, a portion of the work that Christine and I do, and by the way, Christine's not in the live chat today. She has a prior engagement, so she couldn't make the live stream today. But toxic positivity is a subject very close to our hearts, and it's part of the reason and the mission of what we do here. So I want to unpack what that means, where it came from, why it is out there, why so many people are suffering from it, truly, how detrimental it is, and even more importantly, what it's keeping people from truly experiencing, which is the real thing. Because toxic positivity is not real. But first, we must understand what it is, okay? So years ago, Christine and I had a coaching client, and she came to her session, and it was one of those rare occasions where we both were there. Usually it's a one-on-one, but that client had discovered the law of attraction maybe a year prior, studied everything, read all the books, done all the courses, gone to the seminars. And she was sitting across from us. And we were asking her the questions that we would ask any client. We were going through all of that. And every other question, I could see a fearful look in her eye. And she would deflect, not go there, not talk about it. And eventually say, "What's going on?" And then she's, oh, that's just some bad stuff that I don't want to talk about because I don't want to attract more of it. I don't want to even give it any attention. So I won't attract more into my life. And it was this whole rant about the fear, the awesome fear of saying anything that could be negative in her perception, because that's what it is, perception. What to determine what's positive and negative is just your judgment. It's not objective. And so she wouldn't say or do or focus or pay attention to anything that was negative in her mind in order to not attract more of it. It was such a vicious, toxic cycle that her topics or her willingness to focus on anything, the bandwidth of topics was so tiny. It was such a fearful life, and naturally, her life reflected that at that point. So all kinds of things started happening. Uh, we, over a period of time, tried to unpack the whole story with her and make her see that she had fallen prey to a philosophy that is true in its core, but has been taken and repackaged in order to satisfy one of two basic human needs. And here's the two basic human needs that we all have. It's interesting when we are honest with ourselves. We want the truth, really. Most humans, in one way, shape, or form, at least at some point in our life, really strongly seek the truth. It is a deep inner yearning. The second, equally strong inner yearning is to improve our situation, our lives. We have a yearning to become better or to feel better or to be in a better situation, to improve our lives. I mean, that is a yearning. Otherwise, people wouldn't do what they are doing, as misguided as it often seems, but they're doing it because they believe it will make them feel better. So when you understand these two yearnings that we all have, these two needs, then you can see how one is extremely dangerous to the status quo and to the power structure, and that is that yearning for truth. So what did they do brilliantly? They saw and detected early on that a lot of people were seeking both truth and becoming better hand in hand. And so they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take some of that truth and give them some of that truth, but we're going to really focus and zero in on how to improve your life and how to make it better and how to be better, right? And that's going to become the sole focus. And in that, they've convinced people that the truth does not matter nearly as much and that the truth can be neglected in order to achieve the better results. And what's the result of that really was a toxic positivity industry where you go to seminars, where you go to and take courses and read books and go to classes and have a whole coaching education that focuses 100% only on positivity. You're never allowed to even express a negative thought. It is wrong. It is bad. It is off limits. And boy, has it driven people insane. But it has also driven them from their spiritual and whole awakening journey, because truth is the focal point. Truth is the focal point of the awakening journey because it leads everybody inevitably to that second need, which is how do we really truly improve things? Well, we improve things by truth, discovering inner truth and outer truth hand in hand. Okay. Before we go into what that means, I want to show you a few signs of toxic positivity, so we can all be on the same page with this and kind of understand what we're talking about. So, signs of toxic positivity are masking true feelings, hiding behind a mask of positivity to avoid dealing with negative emotions or uncomfortable situations. Forced cheerfulness, forcing oneself or others to be happy and optimistic even when it's not genuine or appropriate, right? It's another sign. Denial of negative emotions, dismissing or denying the validity of negative emotions such as sadness, anger, or fear. So these all go hand in hand. The masking of true feelings, and when people do that, you're very aware of that. Forced cheerfulness. Nothing gives me more of the creeps is like the salesy people who will come to you all cheerful, have a fake smile on their face, and be in this hyper state, in this cheerleading state. It is, to me, it is so repelling. All I can do is walk away. I hate it, really. And the third thing, denial, which is the worst thing because it creates a vicious cycle. When we deny a true and authentic feeling in the moment, and for that, I want to quickly distinguish between two things and how we distinguish. This doesn't mean that that's the official dictionary definition of what I'm saying, but Christine and I, in our work, we distinguish between feelings, authentic in the moment feelings, and emotions, which we define as memories of the past. So the difference is when you see something that's happening right in front of your eyes, or someone is saying something that is hurtful to you in the moment, The feeling that you are experiencing in the moment is authentic, whether that's sadness or shock or fear, anger, or despair, whatever. That is an authentic feeling that happens in this moment. This feeling lasts for anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. That's the truth. The body cannot sustain such intensity for longer periods of time. Now, when this feeling was experienced and felt, acknowledged, and released, it doesn't usually create any scars. It doesn't create any trauma or distress in the subconscious. Emotions, however, they are evoked within us by something that triggers a memory of the past. So we think about a situation could have happened 10 years ago, 5 months ago, 5 weeks ago, doesn't matter. Something negative we perceived as negative happened in our lives, and we remember the situation, and then those emotions from that situations come up again. Those are not true and authentic in the present moment feelings any longer. They are memories of the past or old emotions. Usually, these tend to reappear over and over again because we're replaying the movie, because we haven't healed that situation. We haven't truly acknowledged that situation. We haven't gone to the root of it. So, this is the difference, okay? So, when we suppress an authentic feeling that is coming up in this moment, then we are creating a wound deep within us that eventually will have to keep coming up and keep coming up. Now, there are situations, don't get me wrong, where you have to rank functionability over that feeling. So you have to make a choice. Either I'm going to fully express that feeling now, or I'm going to control myself for the moment because I need to function, because I need to fly a plane or drive a car, whatever. Those are the moments where you need to choose functionability over that feeling. But remember that as soon as you have the opportunity, you have to revisit that situation and give that feeling space. That is part of the human experience. We have to do that. Okay. And we're going to go deeper into this in a moment. I just want to go through the symptoms of toxic positivity. Overemphasis on positivity, focusing solely on the positive aspects of a situation without acknowledging or validating the negative aspects. This is what a lot of people do when they try to talk themselves into the positivity. They don't acknowledge the things that are uncomfortable about a situation or not wanted about a situation. One of the worst um, aspects of toxic positivity is when we're invalidating others' emotions, dismissing or minimizing others' negative emotions, telling them to just be positive or look on the bright side. Now, there is a time and place for this. Um, but when something initially happens, when someone is in their initial experience of a feeling and you just tell them to be positive and look on the bright side, you're actually making it worse. This never works while someone is in the authentic experience of their feeling. When it becomes a habitual pattern, then you begin to suggest healing and suggest a more positive outlook, a true and authentic positive outlook. And we're going to go into that in a moment here. Um, okay, we have a few more symptoms to go. The lack of emotional authenticity, faking emotions or pretending to be something one is not in order to fit in or avoid conflict. These are all symptoms, right, of a deeper wound when we don't allow ourselves to be authentic, but we pretend to be something. We put on that cheerful face. We say the words that are expected of us, and it makes us feel inauthentic. And usually, when someone is even remotely in tune, they can feel our inauthenticity as well. That's what makes people run away. Nobody really likes inauthenticity. The fear of vulnerability, avoiding vulnerability and intimacy due to fear of being hurt or rejected. This is a clear sign of a past trauma. It's a reaction to past trauma, as almost all toxic positivity is. It is a management tool for most people, unconscious, of course, where they use this toxic false positivity to avoid the real issues, and to avoid the real, maybe unresolved trauma or pain from a past. The generalization of positivity, applying a positive attitude to all situations without considering the complexity and nuance of each situation. This is also inauthentic. It's where you're not assessing what is really happening in front of you, but um, you're just using habitual patterns that you learned, and you're pushing them on everything and everyone around you. It creates an inauthentic experience, and it doesn't allow you to actually see what's right in front of you. um, and then we have avoiding difficult conversations, another sign, right? Where when people just want to stay positive, they will avoid a true, maybe deep, maybe even conflict situation, a verbal conflict, because they're so afraid of falling out of their false positivity that they'd rather not have the difficult conversation, that rather not go to the truth of things. And then focusing on the silver lining, solely focusing on the positive aspects. I think we kind of covered that in the previous one. Dismissing negative experiences where they are not as important as the positive ones, also a sign of toxic positivity. As a matter of fact, most people who do acknowledge their quote unquote negative experiences and do truly give them enough space, these experiences, they actually find more value for their life moving forward and more ability to cope in the future when they've learned from those negative experiences rather than dismiss them. And forcing positivity onto others, I think we also kind of already covered that. All righty. So, all in all, it seems that this is a coincidental thing. But toxic or false positivity was created for multiple reasons. One obvious one is that when the hyper industrialization happened, when people were forced into life and work situations that were inhumane and weren't conducive to our nature, and when then later people were worked into the corporate or forced into the corporate structures. And when I say forced, that's where the jobs were. They were forced into life situations and corporate situations and cubicles and all kinds of things that are not conducive to human nature and that are not conducive to productivity. That's what was understood. So what was created was a false culture where you were to ignore your true feelings about something, you were to ignore your true assessment of something, and you were to focus on all the positive things that somebody gave and put them in front of you so you could be more productive and function better. But the other thing that this was really used for and how it became a $1 billion industry with fake gurus and books and teachers was that what I said in the beginning is that the people who seek to improve their lives on deeper levels are inevitably discovering truths that they didn't discover before. So if you allow people to continually be on this truth and awakening journey to who they really are, you are literally dissolving the control grid you have over people. The truth seeking is so natural for us, but it begins and it has to begin within. We have to first find out the truth about who we really are, and what we have experienced in this life and what our subconscious truly holds and believes. So, by definition, because of the way we're being brought up and the way we live, we are going to find bad, negative, or traumatic experiences in our past if we dig deep enough, which is in turn the only way to come to this true and authentic place of feeling really good. Because here's an overarching truth. We were not designed to be in this semi-depressed, semi-sad, semi-stressed state all the time. That was not how anything was designed from the beginning. We were designed to be in balance in accordance with um, the laws that govern this universe, if you will, and the laws that govern nature. And we were designed to be in a balanced and in a symbiotic relationship with the truth. Everything, as a matter of fact, revolves around the truth. So when people say you shouldn't focus on something because you will create more of it, that's a disconnected, detached bullshit line. So, and I give you the example that I always give. What is one of the biggest illegal industries in the world today? human and child trafficking, and for what purposes mainly. It is a growing industry, multi billion-dollar industry. The world at large was absolutely unaware of it, wasn't focusing on it up until a few years ago. Yet it was a growing phenomenon in the world. So if you have very, very little focus and attention on one thing, and it continually keeps growing and becoming bigger, then the idea that simply because somebody focuses on something or pays attention to it, it becomes bigger is false. It is absolutely false, but it serves those who don't want us to focus on anything that is really, really bad or horrible or criminal or horrific in our reality. So, what is the right approach? As I've said a million times, and this has been our message for such a long time, we have to heal ourselves back into balance, into our natural state of being, into the natural state of spirit, where we have coherence between our minds, our hearts, our bodies, and our spirits. Coherence means it is in sync with each other and it vibrates at the level of truth, at the frequency of truth. Truth is everything. This is how we live our lives. Whenever you choose the better feeling thought over the truth, you are just lying to yourself. And we'll get to the nuance of this. There's more to this story, but when these mantras that were out there, just choose the better feeling thought, there is no objective truth, there's just experience, there's your truth and their truth, there's my truth, and no, no. This is a story that has been created beautifully and put together by the best of the PR world and the advertisement world. They've put this story together so that the awakening is stopped at that point where we go into the details, where we go into the real stuff. And so that people are distracted to focus on how to get a faster car, a better house, and improve their lives within the small scope of this matrix, but never look beyond it. So when we are in balance again, because we're whole, we're healed, we have looked and we have actually gone on that journey, faced our inner storms, then we are literally reinserting ourselves in a natural flow of things. In a natural flow of things, then our life becomes like that which we are. Not like that, not like it doesn't become what you think about most. It doesn't become what you just script the most. Your life is a reflection of who and what you are. And who and what you are, we often don't admit that to ourselves because we have a conscious program, that which we type on the screen, if you will, on the screen of our lives. We type out what we think now and what we want our lives to be. In the background, there might be a software running that was programmed on our childhood experiences and is actually creating a completely different truth. So that has to first become synchronized again. So we go the deep trauma healing modalities that we've talked about a lot. The Journey, if you go to thejourney.com, a wonderful deep trauma healing modality. You can find out more about it also on our website. If you go to theinspiredchannel.com and you click on healing, learn more, or family constellation therapy. And there are other modalities out there, but those are the ones we've worked with successfully for many years that allow us to heal our past traumas and clean up the software, if you will. We can't do that by just scripting positive affirmations. The scripting of positive affirmations comes after. First, we must go to the root cause of what is creating repetitive patterns in our lives. Why are we meeting the same person over and over again? Why are people dating or marrying the same person over and over again in a different form? Why are some people finding abusive relationships over and over again while others never find them? Why are some people running into the same problem with finances or abundance or health over and over again in their lives? There's something deeply rooted. And if you don't want to look at it, and if you just want to think positive and ignore it, it's not going to go away. It is the false and toxic positivity that keeps us from looking. Trauma expresses in our lives. As a matter of fact, unresolved trauma runs our lives, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. There's no way around it because you don't even know that it's driving your every decision. Because what is it trying to do? It's trying to avoid from you ever experiencing such pain again. So it is giving you all the irrational and illogical options to choose from, because all it does is try to never experience that again. It doesn't focus on how you create a beautiful, how you create a loving, how you create a harmonious, how do you create abundant. None of that matters. It just is in pain avoidance mode. So we first have to heal that. And what we do by that is exploring truth. And truth is the vibration of life. Truth is the life affirming essence, vibration of life. Everything that steers away from truth steers to death. Everything that steers towards truth steers to life. So then, when we have actually gone into healing mode, and when our cell memories, our subconscious, our spiritual memories, when all of that begins to heal, then we still have to deal with the awareness mind computer that is used to habitual thinking. That's where scripting, new rituals, new habits, new ways of thinking come in, is when we are then reprogramming the old patterns of thinking. That's where we go, and that's where we are effective with scripting and affirmations and taking that into our meditations and prayers. That's when it becomes effective. Just running the affirmations tape every night is actually, without addressing what has caused the situation you're in, what is causing the repetitive patterns of your life, will simply uh, create greater frustrations, because you say, I've done all this, I've read all the books, I've gone to all the seminars, I've paid for the law of attraction coaching, I'm scripting, I'm affirming, I'm doing everything, and yet it doesn't work. Because again, you haven't addressed the root issue. That's why. And toxic positivity works solely on the awareness level of your consciousness, of that which you are aware, when that which runs your life is that which you're unaware of. And that's why you've heard of the reprogramming of the subconscious mind. I would say it is the healing of the subconscious mind. And then the careful creation of patterns of thoughts and habits and actions that serve you. Because this is then how you truly and masterfully create a life that you want to create. That's when you become the artist on the canvas. That's when what you focus on and what you give real authentic attention to, what you put intention in, and what you take inspired action towards, begins to really manifest in your experience, right? This is the key element that this whole industry doesn't really want to talk about, because there's very few people that are skilled enough and educated enough to deal with deep trauma healing. It is a very deep discipline, and it is something that people need to study. It's the greatest responsibility, because you are leading people into the depths of their biggest pains and biggest traumas, and you have to be very, very, very well educated and experienced to do that. Most people don't want to have that kind of an education. Most people don't want to pay that much attention. And I believe Christine is just joining the live chat here.
Yes, I just walked in.
Just walked in, just joined a live chat. It is much easier to sell you a scripting journal where you write your positive affirmations and that's going to fix everything. But we are on this awakening path together, and awakening means discovering truth. For every layer of truth that you discover within you, you will discover hundreds of layers of truth in the outer reality, and will be able to see it for what it is. Okay? Which is so important. It is so important that we finally give ourselves permission to see what is, accept what we see, and then formulate and create a strategy on how to improve things that is actually authentic and real and honest. No woo-woo needed. There's no woo-woo needed. It's all in accordance with laws. It's all in accordance with how things truly work. And so whenever um, we talk about subjects that trigger a negative response in some people, they blame us. They say, why are you talking about this? You're just creating more. You're giving it your attention. You're working for the negative here. Just focus on the beautiful and all the love and all the light. It's the love and light brigade, the unicorns. But there's a fear. There's a fear that's driving their wishes because they do not wish to see the polarity, the yin, the yang, the truth of our uh, simulated experience here. They don't wish to acknowledge that because what? Because it makes them feel bad. Why? Because there's a lot of unresolved shit underneath it all. And that's not a blaming or pointing fingers. That's the truth of it. We all grow up like that in this life. There is no, in our society, I've never met a person that grew up without any kind of trauma. But the modalities, the rituals, the ceremonies, the healing practices have been lost and have been taken out of our culture. Many indigenous tribes still have that. When something happens, an accident or violence or something happens that they know has a negative effect on the whole and on the individual, they have ceremony. They have healing ceremony. They acknowledge it. They don't push it away. They acknowledge what has happened. They go through a series, through a healing ceremony, and then they allow their spirits, their bodies, their minds, and everything to heal and become whole again. This is how we need to operate in this realm. So we have pretty much turned away from the entire toxic positivity industry, from the 99% of the law of attraction teachers, because they have opted to sell just a small portion of the truth and a big portion of the illusion. And we have seen that 90% of the people who study this for longer periods of time are worse off than they were before. It's not good. This just doesn't, this just means it's not authentic. And here's the worst part of this is, and this is why I've often wondered if our almost unrestricted access to all information at all times is actually positive. Life is not one giant leap. Life is a journey of a billion baby steps. Every step needs to be experienced, felt, integrated, and then we can move on to the next one. It's the onion of a million layers. So when we are living authentically, then we experience each layer of that onion, which is a layer of the truth. We experience that layer, we live it, we give it our attention, and we're authentically interacting with it. And then we go to the next and to the next and to the next. And with each layer, we discover a greater sense of truth and a greater picture of the truth. And if we are following the calling that comes from that, then we go back to the most outer layers and we infuse them with our authenticity and the truth that we have found, which helps others in turn. And that's how we heal those layers. That's how we heal what is going on here and how we heal ourselves. So it is a lifelong, and the number one thing that you should be married to in your life is truth. It should be your constant companion integrated within you. The truth is that if we get to the core of things, that we are that, like that which we were created from, that we are truly in a sense of oneness with our creation. We're nowhere near that oneness in our physical experience here. The world doesn't reflect that at all. And to take that oneness principle and pretend that you can 100% apply it to every situation in your life is another delusion. We have to have discernment in this life. We have to understand that even though ultimately what we see, or the person across the street might have been initially created from the same thing that we were created from, right now they're in a very bad place. They're armed and they might be willing to kill you if you confront them. So what are you going to do? You're going to bank on the oneness principle, or you're going to do the smart thing, turn around and walk in another direction? Discernment is key in this experience. And we cannot take one teaching or two teachings or three teachings from a body of teachings that is huge and lifelong and simply take that which looks the best to us and leave all the other stuff there. No, life is a million baby steps. If you skip those baby steps, you skip what you would have learned in those baby steps and you have an inauthentic picture, an inauthentic truth. This is a lot. It's complex, but actually, it simply means that if you do not value your own life experience and the feelings that you're having, if you don't acknowledge that life isn't just happiness and joy and unicorns all the time, but it is also sadness and anger and grief and resentment, that these are experiences that we have as humans. If you want to just push them away, good luck. They're gonna come back over and over again, and they're gonna bring friends. If you acknowledge them, if you see them for what they are, and that ultimately, 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 they're just experiences. They're not an eternal reality. They're just a temporary experience, and every experience teaches us something. Then you will kind of start adopting more of a stoic mindset, and you will have a much more truthful and authentic outlook on life. Which leads me back to the live stream we did a couple days ago, where when something becomes too intense, when something becomes too crazy, you always have the choice to take the position of the observer. The position of the observer is that which is eternal. It's the position of spirit. You step out and you look at the situation and you can see it much clearer and you realize this is just an experience. This is not eternity. This is not forever. This is now. What am I learning? What am I seeing? What am I finding through this experience? It's much easier to cope with it then and much easier to move on from it. So, this journey of healing, becoming whole again, and also understanding that, as my wife says in her infinite wisdom, that because of the way our current reality is set up, we stop healing in this life when we take our final breath. Because yes, we're living in a world that constantly tries to induce trauma. So in some way, shape, or form, we are affected, and we need to acknowledge that. But this kind of living inevitably puts you on a path of continual awakening and of continual truth seeking. There's no other way when you live this way. And that's why I said, for some people, they don't want that. Some people don't want to find the core, the true answer, the truth, the biggest picture possible. Some people simply want to feel better. And there's more than enough people that are waving huge flashy signs that says, come here, I'll help you feel better. Don't worry about the truth. Don't worry about what's really going on. Don't worry about any of that. I'll just help you feel better. Some people use drugs for that. Other people use an addiction or another addiction for that. And yet other people just choose to focus on a more positive thought and ignore the rest of their reality. It's all good. It's your choice. But if you are seeking to find the exit of the maze, then you gotta follow the breadcrumbs of truth. They are there. You have to follow them. And in my experience, they lead you to something that is so much better than the dopamine infused feeling of happiness, than the false illusion of perpetual fun. It is so much grander. It is so much bigger because it's the real thing. See, perpetual fun is the amusement park version of it. So you go there and you ride the roller coaster and you drink the soda pop or the whatever you call it, wherever you are. I think when you're above the Mason-Dixon line, you call it pop, and people down here call it soda. But at any rate, you go into the amusement park and you subscribe to the fun subscription. And so it's all good. And after a while, like Bill Hicks said, you forget you're in an amusement park and you think it's reality. The real thing isn't fun. The real thing isn't just the cheerleading thing. The real thing is much grander. It's such a huge and grand feeling of all that is, and you can attain a state in your life where that feeling never truly leaves you. It is somewhere at a foundational level within you, and that what gives you peace, it gives you balance, and it allows you to go through all experiences of life without fully being invested in every little piece of drama. You allow it, you experience it, you allow it, you're there, but that eternal peace knows this is an experience. So it doesn't have to fight it, it doesn't have to hide it, it doesn't have to suppress it. This is where we're going. I in my perception, this is where this whole journey is going. To remember that that is which we truly are, and that's where we came from. That's what creation or source is. Uh, yes.
Did you talk about mind altering, or can you not talk about that on here?
About mind altering drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of this conversation that Christine and I had yesterday, we're just sparking this live stream here, was the abuse of mind altering drugs and the whether that's shrooms or whether that's anything that um, people use as an escape or as the only gateway to healing. I think there is a time and place for the sacred plants in this realm. The trend has become to use those plants just like people used alcohol or people used other addictions to escape. There is something to be said for your conscious decision with a clear mind to go on a healing journey versus your altered mind taking over. So, in my perception, to use those healing plants to escape something is inviting the darkness in, if you will. It's inviting some very, very low frequency entities in. The same, I'm not equating it to alcohol because there's no redeeming quality in alcohol, and those plants have a lot of redeeming qualities. But your state of being determines how susceptible you are or how non-susceptible you are. So if you're in a very vulnerable state of being and you then enter through some of these plants an altered state of mind, you are likely very susceptible to those dark energies to creep in. And in for example, in aura photography, we can actually see the holes in aura that are visible in addicts or in people that use mind altering stimuli often. So this is a nuanced subject. I'm not at all opposed to these sacred plants, but I think they have to be used properly, in a ceremonial way and with guidance from very experienced people that you actually trust. This is how I see it. I think, like everything else, there's a huge level of self medication going on, and I've actually never seen the positive effects of that self medication when it's done to escape something. Is there anything else you wanted to?
Well, of course, we could also go into all those mind-altering prescription drugs, but I don't think that we can do that on here.
So the other side are the mind altering prescription drugs, which
And we do not.
depending on who what statistic you find, 50 to 70% of Americans are on one or more mind altering prescription drugs. Now, we don't give any medical advice. Please talk to your medical practitioner. What I will say, and I will probably word this carefully, that there are things that there are experiences that I've seen that people had that we worked with that aren't possible in our experience when certain drugs are in play. That's all I can say. That is my observation. I've seen people have experiences and healing experiences that I couldn't see in other people. Um, this is dangerous territory because almost anything I say here can be interpreted as medical advice, which we're not given. I have no. I'll leave it at that.
We will talk about it on
We will
locals.
talk about it more on locals. We've actually done a whole show on that on locals, where we can talk about these things. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about it here. Um, but I will say this. Here's the best way I can say it. You do not need for healing. If you really want to heal your subconscious, your psyche, you do not need any kind of alteration from outside. You do not need any kind of stimuli through a substance, be that a plant, be that synthetic or anything. You don't need it. I've done all my healing journeys completely without any stimuli from outside. No substances. I ingested nothing, I drank nothing, nothing of the sort. So I can tell you you can do it completely without. Whether you should or not, or whether that's your journey, or whether that's all up to you and your medical practitioner. Go and talk it out with them. But this is what I will say. So, in closing, um, if you are experiencing a lot of episodes of sadness, or you are experiencing the same unwanted patterns in your life, or you are experiencing panic attacks, anything of the kind, I would encourage you to give yourself permission to start your healing journey. And it's really important that you give yourself permission. Let yourself off the hook. Don't feel ashamed, or don't make yourself feel guilty, because maybe you've already done a lot of work, or you've done shadow work, and so what? So what? So more work needs to be done. That's okay. We're all on this journey on one level or another. Give yourself permission to go on that healing journey. And if you are in a state that you would experience as unbalanced or out of whack, or sadly, often sad, then it's probably not the right time to go down certain rabbit holes. I would never encourage people that are in this state to go down this, rabbit holes that could cause more distress. Because if we see the suffering of others and we're not in a very balanced place, it absolutely triggers our own suffering and our own history. There's no doubt about it. And so then nobody's served by that. If you want to really be a positive contributor to all that is, then give yourself permission to focus on yourself, your own healing, and your own well being first. For years and years, we have held certain information and we never came out publicly because I knew, and this is just me personally, I knew I wasn't in a balanced enough state yet to present this and talk about this in a way that isn't filled with fear or worry or doubt. It took my own personal journey and arriving at a more healed and balanced and wholesome place so that I wouldn't become someone who would put out more of that energy. And that's the huge difference for me. You can hear two people talk about the same subject. And when one person talks about that subject, all you feel from that screen is fear. And when another person talks about that subject, you can still hear the information, but for some reason, there's maybe a feeling of hope in it, or change, or inspiration, or something. And that is the difference. How and who the speaker or presenter of information is makes a huge difference about how the information is perceived. And then on the other side of that equation is information in and of itself is rarely fearful. The receiver of that information, um, when in an unhealed state, will automatically react from past trauma. Automatically, there's nothing you can do about it. When, however, you are in a healed or more wholesome place, you will actually have an authentic in the moment reaction. Very, very different. Okay, my friends, I think we've covered this extensively today, but it's an important subject. And it is ironic to us that for years we have studied the laws, how they operate, how they work, how they affect us. And that is actually the field that inspired us to speak out in a more public way. And we are now all but turning our backs on that field. It seems ironic, but it's the only thing that we can do, because 95, 96, 97% of it is not authentic, it's not truthful. And the worst part about it is that we have had enough of an insight behind closed doors to see that so many of the fake gurus don't believe their own version of things. Behind closed doors, they think differently, they act differently, they do things differently. And that's the greatest sign for me that we're looking at inauthenticity here. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to name any names because it doesn't have any, won't bring more value to the subject. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.